What was the sounds that are happening inside of your home when your mom is doing the chores, when you're in the car, your dad? Like, what were your parent influences? Because that's where it starts. You don't have an identity with it. That's what you hear first.
I couldn't agree more. So I could definitely say that my dad has always been a huge musical influence in my life. Before I even started ever listening to music or thinking about rap, around when I was like maybe 7 or 8 years old, my dad would educate me on all the music that he listened to when he was a kid. And my dad actually back in the day was he was a DJ at a nightclub in the early '80s,
Okay.
or yeah, probably in sometime in the '80s. So definitely when I was a kid, the stuff he was playing for me was like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Rush, Van Halen, um, like a lot of music like that. Like for sure. Like I didn't even listen to rap until maybe I was like 9 or 10 years old. So a lot of the early stuff that I was shown was like more along the lines of alternative and like rock and roll,
We
more
all
stuff
have
like that.
like, okay, because like we grew up in like a different world now, right? So for me, when I'm growing up in the home, there's cassette tapes, and like literally, I was at that age where I would basically record off the radios, and then I moved into MP3s into high school and the CDs and all of that stuff. How was y'all consuming music when you're young, right? Because I don't even know if a lot of us think about it. This is a rare opportunity for me to pick your brain like that.
Okay. Definitely a lot of it was like in the car with CDs, like CDs. That was probably the vibe back then.
Okay.
But even then, like a lot of it was YouTube for sure. Like, but for me, like when I first started listening to music, I had one of those, like tiny MP3 players, and I would just like torrent like illegal tracks onto an MP3 player.
So you're doing this from like how old were you? Like when you got into that kind of stuff?
Like I would say like probably 7 years old. Like I remember when I started like first grade, I got like my first MP3, and when I would take the bus to school, I would be listening to a lot of stuff. So it would, yeah, I would say it definitely started first grade when I was like 7, 8 years old.
So you're already forming a bit of a musical identity in your own tastes as of like 7 years old, for real. That's
Yeah.
crazy. And what about your mom? What kind of stuff was she into? Because that would have been like the other side of it a bit.
Well, I would say in terms of like the music that I ended up listening to, I was definitely influenced more from my father. But
Okay.
in terms of like what my mom would listen to, she liked stuff like what were they called? Fuck, a Canadian legend band. Can't remember the name. Can't.
Tragically
Oh, the
hip.
Tragically Hip. She's a big fan. Yeah.
Ah, that's hilarious. Um,
So she's a big fan of them. She liked like a lot of stuff that my dad liked too, but in terms of like yeah, she likes like bands like Aerosmith. She likes James Taylor, stuff like that.
so that's crazy that like, because even if like maybe you're more inspired by what your dad was bumping, it's still your lady friend Bonnie said Gord Downey. That's the lead man at Tragically Hip. But
Legend.
even if you're inspired, like you more by one side than the other, the reality is you're still exposed to it, and that's more like you still hear it. It still
Hmm.
gets consumed by it, and I think it's so interesting how you're currently a pretty diverse hip hop artist, but really the inception of your stuff is a lot more on the rock stuff. It's not really like that. So how do you end up discovering hip hop? Like what is going on when you're like 7 or 8? Like I guess with YouTube, because YouTube must have been a part of your life then forever.
Yep. I remember I got my first Facebook account when I was in second grade at about 8 years old.
That's nuts.
This was like right around the time. I know it's crazy. This is right around the time that Facebook was created, and just around then, I had one of like those old computers, like a box computer with like the keyboard that makes like the sound when you type it, like an old ass keyboard. And I remember it started with Facebook, and then gradually I would come home every single day from school, and I would like instantly just hop on the computer. I'd go on YouTube, and this is actually what's so funny is what started with me discovering music on YouTube was that Mad TV sketch. Can I have your number?
Okay. No, I know that one. That's crazy.
So I used to come home. I used to come home every day, and I would watch that skit. I swear on repeat. And then by the time I got sick of it, I would just like scroll and I would find music and like stuff that I knew I liked at the time, and then like it kind of just all evolved.
So in a sense, you can say that the algorithms have fed your musical habit since your youth. That's
Yep.
crazy. So like, were you like ever creating YouTube videos and stuff back when you were young, or were you just consuming this stuff? Like, I don't know.
That's funny you say that. I have there's one YouTube video of me from when I was 10 years old, okay? This was like the year where the Habs it was like Carey Price's worst year he ever had. It was when he was like addicted to blow, like alcoholic, like worst goalie in the NHL year.
Right?
And I made a video basically making fun of Carey Price, like basically saying that he gets drunk before the games. So this is when I was 10. Yo, you could search it up if you type in Carey Price drunk. You could see the video.
That's amazing.
It's amassed over 12,000 views.
That's crazy. So
I you have to read the comment section. All the comments were French Canadians and die-hard Montreal fans tearing me apart, tearing me.
so how did you
A
respond to
10-year-old
that?
kid.
So how did you respond to that? Being a 10-year-old kid getting criticism like that.
I think I read through all the comments. Honestly, I've always had a pretty good sense of humor about myself, but I didn't even realize how funny it was until I showed like my older cousins the comments, and they were dying. Like they're my cousins are all older than me. They were dying. They swear they to this day have never read anything funnier than these comments ripping a 10-year-old kid. And they basically just told me to laugh it off. They're like obviously like these people are losers if they're like full grown adults hating on a 10-year-old. You know what I mean? So it's like they're like just ignore it.